Hey guys, welcome back to this series of tutorials where we are building a food delivery app with React Native and Firebase. Uh, I have to apologize, it has been a long time that I've not up uploaded a new video. That is simply because I have been busy with a project for a customer, and that has taken quite a lot of time on my side, and yeah, it's kind of complete, and in this week I'll try my best to upload as many videos as I can. And without wasting any time, we're going to continue from where we stopped. But if it's your first time to watch this video, I will also suggest you to watch the previous videos as well. There's a playlist on this channel, and make sure you start from the first video so that you are on the same page with everyone else, unless if you're only interested in the topic at hand. But otherwise, yeah, try to see what you have done before so you understand exactly what we are doing. In the last video we did complete the sign in with Firebase, and that was the email authentication. So right now on your application, if for example you put a user login details that you have registered on your app, or the user that has signed up or created an account with your app, and if they come to log in, for example put express food at gmail.com and put the password. So if you try to click on the sign in, you will see that nothing happens. And if you check on the console, we're logging out to say the console log, we have user sign in. So it's telling us here that the user is signed in the back end or on the server side, meaning the Firebase is authenticated the user successfully, and Firebase assumes the user is signed in. But our app is not granting the user access, because when you sign in you have to access the application so you can either place the order for your food. Let me just demonstrate that on the final app. If I go to sign in, put the user email expressfood at gmail.com and put the password. So if I click sign in, you will see that the user is given access to the app, is successfully authenticated, and they've been granted access to the app, so they can place orders for food and so forth. So this is what we're going to implement in this video. We're going to make sure that when your user is signed in, they get access to the app so they can place orders for food and do whatever they can do inside the application. So I'm going to go back to our app. So far you should be able to, when you sign in your user on your app, you should be able to get this message, user signed in. This is what you have done so far. So you are able to create an account. The user is able to create an account in your app, and they are able to be authenticated in the back end with Firebase, and now we're going to authenticate them in the client side. And on the client side, we're going to be using React navigation authentication flow, as well as the data store. And to achieve the data store, we're going to be implementing it with React use reducers, as well as context. So I'm not gonna go into details of explaining what is context, what is reducers. All those are part of React. So if you are following this, I assume you have a basic knowledge of React, and but I'll try my best to make sure I accommodate everyone. So go to your app, open your app, in any code editor that you are using. I'm using Visual Studio Code, and inside your app you should have a source folder, and inside your source folder we're going to create a folder, another folder inside here. We call it context, and create also another folder, call it reducers. So you have created those two folders. Now go to we're going to change a lot of things. We're first going to change the authentications, the way that you have been, the navigations. We're going to change the way that we've set up our navigations. We're going to separate the authentication screens from the rest of the screen inside our app, meaning the sign-in screen, the sign-up screen, the forgot password screen, and all those things. We're going to make a different navigation or a different stack navigation for them, and the rest of the application will be a different stack, so that if the client is on the sign-in stack, they are not inside the app yet. Unless they are authenticated and given access to the app, then they will have access to all the app features. And you're gonna face you go to the root navigation file.js, where you should have your root navigation.js file, and inside this we're going to change some few stuff just now. And first of all, we must import the we're going to create first let's first create the data store, because we're gonna need to know when the user is successfully authenticated. We need to store that state. It's gonna be a user token that we get from Firebase. Whenever the user is authenticated, there will be a token that Firebase gives us to say that the user is known and he has been successfully authenticated. And that has to be stored globally in our app. And in order to do that, we're going to play around with the use context, which are hooks in React, and we're also going to play around with the reducers, which is also a hook in React. So inside the reducer folder, create a new file, and in this file we can name it I'm going to call it auth reducers .js. You can call it like that, auth reducers.js. You could call it whatever name, but if you want to follow along with me, just keep the names that I'm putting so that it doesn't get confusing later on. And we're going to create a sign-in reducer. So I'm going to export it first. Const sign-in reducer, and this will take a state and also have actions that we can get from it. So So we're going to switch around. So we're going to say switch action dot type, and the face type that we will be expecting is we can say update sign in, and with case update sign in. Okay, and then we can return something. Going to be returning an object, and this object we're going to have a user token, and this user token we're going to get it from Firebase. So then you're going to say action dot payload dot user token, and at default going simply to return the state. This might look confusing, but for now just follow what I'm doing. Make sure this is not there. Yeah, for now, sorry, I'm just confusing. This is supposed to be there, this is supposed to be out, like that, getting error. Yes, so if you don't understand, just follow for now. By the end of this video you will exactly understand why I'm doing all this. So we have created our reducer for the sign-in. So whenever a user is using our app, we're gonna be watching and update the sign-in status. For example, if the user is signed in, we're gonna update it. If they log out, we will also update this status in our global store. You can save that file for now, and you can go to the context file, context folder, create also a new file, call it you can call it what, auth context. Auth context.js, and here we're going to create our context. And as I said, if you don't understand, it's still fine, just follow for now, and everything will become clear just now. What we can do, we can first import React. We're also going to import some component or APIs. We're going to import some APIs, and the first one, I'm gonna import a create context, and also going to import use reducer. What's happening? All this is from React. And we're also going to import the reducer that we have just created. Let's import that. It was must import the sign-in reducer. So import sign-in reducer, and now let's create a sign-in context. We're gonna create it like this. Sorry, I don't know what's happening today, but yeah, let's create the sign-in context. So we create it by doing by using the create context. So it gonna be sign in context equal to create context. And now we have to create some actions and how this data can be accessed. So we can say const, it's gonna be signed in state. So just gonna say signed in, and here we're gonna say dispatch sign in. And okay, so it's signed in, and there used reducer, we pass the sign in reducer, and for now the data that we'll be accessing is simply the user token. For now we're gonna add more data later on, but for now we're more interested in the user token. This is what we want to have on a global level inside our app. And the initial state, we're gonna give it null. Okay, and so we have this, and all this supposed to be inside a provider. All that we have been creating, it has to be inside a provider, a context provider, which you must create. So I'm gonna say const sign in context provider equal to, can pass some props here, and then all this must be inside the provider, as I said, context provider, and then this will retain the provider in question. Retain sign in context provider, which is a component, and there's some props that can take. The first one is value, and this will be equal, we pass some props to it, and that will be signed in, as well as dispatch signed in. And here we can say it should be able to take children, so we simply gonna accept some children. So we say props children, like that. All right, so we have created our context, but right now we have not exported it. We have created our providers, context provider. Now we have to export it as well, this context provider. So I'm going to say export signed in. Okay, instead of exporting it here, you can simply export it directly. Export there. You can save again this file. So we have created our context. Now the next thing that we're going to do, we have to to wrap our app so that it can consume this data, the signed in as well as this. In order to do that, go to your app.js file, go to the app.js file, and you're going to wrap everything inside our context provider. As I said, for now just follow what I'm doing, and if you are confused about something, you can write in the comment and I will see how to assist. But by the end of this video, I'm sure you'll understand the reason why we've been doing certain things. So we're going to say that was signed in context provider, which is here, and this must be wrapping the whole of all this. So this will become the children of our provider, so they can consume this context. And make sure it is imported on top here, otherwise you will get an error. You can save that. And so we have created our store. Now let's begin consuming the data in our store and updating the status of our user to know if they are signed in or signed out. The first thing we must do, we're going to change the way we've been handling our navigation. You have to separate the navigation, meaning the authentication flow from the main application. So go to the navigation folder and go to the root navigation.js file. We have here a auth stack. I'm going to create another stack. We're going to create another stack that I'm just gonna say app stack. So we have a auth stack and we have to create a app stack as well. So the authentication stack will just be the sign in screen, the sign up screen, the password forgotten screen and all that, and the app stack, that way you're gonna have the rest of the screens, the home screen, the cart, the tracking and all those features that are inside your app. So I think we can just modify this one. Let's see, importing this from auth stack. Okay, auth stack is here, and all right, so I'm going to remove this. Go to your auth stack.js file. We're going to separate things. I'm going to remove these two so that we only left with things that are related to the authentication. So I'll be left with sign up, sign in, as well as sign in welcome screen. So I will only be left with three screens in this auth stack.js file. And now let me save that. We're gonna get some errors for now because things are being changed. Save that, and let's create another stack. I'm going to call it app stack. Create a new file and just call it app stack.js, like that. Okay, and inside here let me paste what we've copied, and I'm going to copy some more things here. We have to copy the import. I don't want to be typing. You can copy this. Let me do something. Copy all this. I'm going to make this bigger, yeah, for now. Copy all this and paste it in the app stack.js file that you've just created on top, the first lines. go back again to the auth stack.js file and copy this or cut these two because they are not being used here anymore, and paste it in the app stack.js file. And again, you can save this file now, and I can copy all this so that I don't have to type it myself. Go here, can paste it just here, follow what I'm doing. You paste it there. Instead of auth, here you can say app. Okay, and instead of auth stack, going to call it app stack, and instead of auth here, we're going to call app. Okay, also here instead of auth we call app, and this has to be retained, so we must type a retain here, retain, and you must close the bracket underneath at the end. So you're gonna have this and then that. So let's see, why is it still complaining? Okay, all this must be inside what a navigator. So we must have open component. We're gonna have app dot navigator. All this must be inside the navigator. Cut that one, paste it at the bottom. Alright, so we have created our app stack. We have divided it from the authentication stack. So we have the auth stack and we have now the app stack. Okay, and inside this we have registered a drawer navigator. Instead of drawer navigator, we can call this, just call it app. There's no need to call it drawer navigator. So in this app, you're gonna have a drawer navigator which will have all the stack, as well as we're gonna have all these other things. So you can save that, save it, and now go to your root navigator, and inside here we're going to import. We have imported the auth stack. Now we're going also to import the app stack inside our root navigator. Import app stack. We have imported now two stacks inside our root navigator. So this is becoming clear to you by now, I'm sure. So we have a authentication stack which only handles the authentication flows, meaning all the sign in and sign up and all those type of things, password reset and all that. And then we have another stack which is the rest of the application. So by default, the user, when they open the app, they will only be given access to this one stack here, the auth stack, and only when they are authenticated with Firebase, then shall they be given access to the app stack. So it's very simple. In order to implement that logic, I'm sure if you have built the app until this stage, you should be able to reason exactly how that can be handled. But the first thing, let's first import the context that you have created. So import, that was the sign-in context. That should be the right name. Yes, import this sign-in context. And once we've imported it, we must also import another API from React, and that is use context. because you need now to consume this context in here. And once that has been done, so we're going to use that here. I'm gonna say const you have signed in, that all that we need, signed in, sorry, it should be small letters, and this we're grabbing it from use context signed in. This is grabbing it from the signed in context, like that. So now you have access to this data, which is a global data inside our store. So we can access the state of our user, if they are signed in or they are signed out. Okay, so this is how we do it. We're going to open, because this has to be dynamically done. Let me cut this for now. Auth stack, we don't have anything in here. All right, so what I'm gonna say is I'm gonna query this data to say sign in.user token. This is the data we have passed. If it's not equal to a string, by the could call it signed in. If this is not equal to signed in, then it should return the auth stack. This is what should be rendered, only the auth stack, nothing else into our app. So what I'm saying is, if the user token, which we grab from the sign in data in our store, if this user token is not equal to signed in, that means the user is logged out, then only render the auth stack. That means the user won't be given access to the app. And we say otherwise, meaning the user is signed in, then we're gonna give them access to the app. So we're gonna say render the app stack. That means everything that is inside our app. Okay, so we're having an error. I just want to see why. Okay, this has to be question because we're querying. That is the reason why. Sorry, I had forgotten that, and that should be, the problem should be solved. We can save that again, and now let's go to our sign-in screen. Okay, and go to the screen folder, scroll to sign-in screen or under auth screens, and then sign-in screen. Okay, we have this function here, sign-in, which grabs the values from our forms and then send them to Firebase to authenticate the data that has been passed by the user. And when the user is signed in, if this is true, this data we're getting it from Firebase, because we're giving Firebase our email address and password, and Firebase checks if this is true, if there's a user with this email, and if the password is correct. If that is correct, Firebase will give us some data, and if this is wrong, it will give us some errors which will grab in here. And if it's successful, it's gonna give us a success message. For example, let's see what we get from a successful login. I'm going to delete this. Let's log the user. We're going to see what Firebase gives us back. And let's go back to our app. Okay, I see the app is closed. I don't need this anymore. Let's see this. Okay, it's gonna take a bit of time to load because it was closed, and let's see if there's no error. Okay, seems like there's something that is not right. Okay, go to the auth context.js file. Go to this file, and there's a fatal error here. This is supposed to be sign in context dot provider, like that. Make sure you change this to this, and save again, and still nothing. Okay, let me close again the app and relaunch it. Okay, now it's working 100%. So make sure you add this, and after adding this, rebuild your application, and then you should have this. Awesome. Now there was something we were trying to achieve. Go to the sign-in page. We want to see what data we're getting from Firebase after the user submitted the email and passwords. So let me just get my console because we're logging that out. So when I click on sign in, sorry, I did click on yes, sign in, and go to sign. I have to put the user login details, which is expressfood@gmail.com, and the password. And then let me just have the console on. Let's see. So this is the data we get from Firebase. We get all this user token when the user is successfully logged in. So you're gonna see, you're gonna get the user info, email address, which is the email we've used, and the name, display name. There's nothing, we did not provide the name, so we're gonna add all those things. And you also get a unique ID, UID. So this is a unique identification for your user inside Firebase. So you get all this information from Firebase when the user has been successfully authenticated. So what we can say is that if we get something, if this is true, then we're going to dispatch some data to our store to say that yes, the user has been successfully logged in. So we're going to dispatch some data to our data store, because this data store is available to all screens inside our application. And yeah, let's see how we're going to do that. So after the user has been successfully logged in, we're going to dispatch, but before that we must first import all those methods. Let me make this bigger. So go to your, I don't want to repeat myself. Let's copy this from the root navigation file. Copy all this, copy this, and paste it here in the sign-in file. And this must be doubled because we are nested inside our folder. And once you have imported this, then we can use it. We also need to import use context from React. Import use context like that. And once that is done, we're going now to import those the dispatch that you have created in with our context. You can put it on top here. You can just say const and with the structuring here, we're gonna say dispatch signed in. I think that was what we've passed inside our context. And then here we're gonna say use context equal to use context, and we pass the context that we have created, which is sign in context. Sign in context like that. And then we're going to dispatch the user sign in state to our store. So we're gonna say dispatch signed in and type, going to say update sign in. This has to be the same as what we've created into our context. This is inside our reducer, you will see that this is exactly what we passing there. And if that's the type, we must give a payload. Say payload will be also an object, and this object will be the user token. This is the data we've passed again into our context, user token. Okay, and we will say user token updated to signed in. So let's see if this is the case. Okay, it's fine. Let me save that. And yeah, let's try our luck. Hoping this should work. I'm going to make my screen smaller, and let me start what's happening to my app. My app is loading. Let's sign in. And pass the user sign in expressfood@gmail.com. we pass the password 1 2 3 4 5 6. So let's see. Looks like nothing is happening. And oh, there way, it's working. Awesome. So you have successfully signed in. This was as simple as that. So we are now able to sign in our app. We're giving access to our user. So the user is signed in. So if you manage to sign inside your app as I did, please just tap in the comment so I can have the feedback from you, so I will know it's also working for you guys. And in the next video we're going to implement the sign out. Right now if I click on sign out, nothing happens. I'm not signed out. And in the next video we're going to implement it so that when you click on sign out, then your user will be logged out of your application. That's what we're going to do in the next video. And otherwise, congratulations, you're almost there with your authentication flow. And yeah, I hope to see you in the next video. Until then, keep safe and take care. Bye bye.